So I started this piece based on a piece of fabric that I bought when I was visiting my mother in Tennessee. It is, well, thank you, Damien. It was a very long piece of fabric that was all rainbow. And I started out by just cutting one really long strip of it and then basting it down onto my canvas in the shape of a brain and letting the colors just fall where they fell. And because the whole piece of fabric was rainbow, I ended up with a big rainbow brain. No surprise, if you know my work, you know that I love rainbow brains. So I really, I thought it would be really fun. When I first started this piece, I thought, I don't know if this is going to turn out or not. Might end up in the trash heap. But I've been really enjoying working on it. And I thought I would challenge myself to only use materials that I had in the studio already. So all of the beads and buttons and thread and baubles and little bits and pieces of things that are in here are things that I had in my studio, in my collection of tidbits, and I'm lucky that I'm a little bit of a hoarder, so. But it's been really fun. I've been adding things just as I go along. There's no real plan here. You can see there's beads, there's a little bird in there, there's some of my friends' tatting, my friend's grandmother's tatting, and I've used a whole bunch of different kinds of stitches. I have a lot of French knots and some satin stitch, some long and short stitch. Let's see, Damien says, I work with older adults, activities that use the brain, so always look at art with the brain. Oh, great. I love that. That makes me really, really happy. It's actually quite rare. People tend to make heart art. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I haven't gotten tired of doing brain pieces, and I don't expect I will, but if I ever do, probably the heart is the next organ that I would think about doing. Yeah, it's, do you know about Neuroblooms? I actually, hi Hope, and hi Whitney, there's an artist called Leslie Holt who does brain art that is reflective of scans and what they look like on different conditions. And I actually, this morning when I put on this dress, I realized there was a big hole right here, but I had a patch of hers. This is her patch for depression brain. And so I quickly ironed it onto my dress. So yeah, we're doing everything brains today. No surprise at all. So the goal this weekend is just to finish this piece. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really challenging me to really be creative. I don't plan anything out. I do everything improvisationally. So I work on a section. When I get to that section, I look at the whole piece to see where we're going and what colors need better representation. I really like to represent the entire spectrum, which is one of the reasons why I really am into rainbows so much and why rainbows feature so prominently in my artwork. To me, they're a symbol of diversity, of hope, of the full spectrum of possibility in our lives. So I just, I think for anybody who's dealing with brain issues, or for anybody who is dealing with challenges in their brain, that the rainbow can be a source of hope and a source of inspiration for them. At least that's what I hope. Hi, Owen. Thanks for joining, everybody. I've been having some technical difficulties this morning, so if I fade away, it's because my connection's not strong enough, and the internet decided to wig out on me. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who showed up and everybody who's here. And if you have any questions at all about what I'm working on or what I'm doing, I've been having so much fun with this piece. I'll show you the back of it too. I always like the way the backs of my pieces look, because they're so chaotic, which is to me very representative of what goes on inside our heads. And then this is what the front looks like. So I only have a very little bit that's left undone, which is right down here. And I'm gonna really try to finish it this weekend, and then I haven't decided yet whether I'm gonna traditionally stretch it onto stretcher bars and paint around it like I do most of my work, or I might leave it framed in the hoop. This is a quilter's hoop. Quilters use it when they're doing hand quilting, and somebody on Twitter asked me if I was channeling my mother with this piece. And if you've been following me for a while, you probably know that my mother was a quilter for many, many years, and I just visited her in Tennessee, which is why I haven't been doing the Sunday sit and stitch for a while, because I've been away. And I think I am channeling her a little bit. She's very, very colorful. She loves color. She loves fabric. I actually bought this fabric in a little quilt shop that I took her to in Tennessee. It was our only outing in the whole 10 days that I was there, was to go to this quilt shop that she was desperate to go to. And they had very high COVID rates in Tennessee when I was there, so I did not want to take my 95-year-old mother anywhere. But we did put our masks on and go to the one quilt shop, and I found this beautiful piece of rainbow fabric that has the full spectrum, the long way on the fabric. So it's this is the fabric bit in this is all from one piece of fabric that I cut a strip about this long of the long piece of fabric, and I tacked it down. And then I've been embroidering on top of it to hold it in place. If anybody has any questions, let me know. I'm gonna actually sit and stitch a little bit, and we'll see if I can get anything done right now. I wanted to talk a little bit about tools. I use a fine point Mark Be Gone. This is a water soluble pen, and when I get to a place that has some blank spots and I decide I want to follow a certain pattern, then I oh, thanks Whitney. She says looks great, carry on. I mark it out on the fabric, and then I can go back later and use a little water to get rid of the marks. It's really important to have good tools. Thanks, Hope. Love the texture and complexity of this piece. Yeah, I'm really enjoying working on it. It's been a real challenge for me, but it's good to challenge yourself, right? All right, let's just see where we go here. Let's see if I can reposition the camera so y'all can see my stitching. Oh, the light's not great, is it? So, stitching is really, really, really slow art form, and I don't keep track of my hours because I think it would depress me too much to know how many hours goes into each piece. Every once in a while I take a stab at recording it, and I'll tell you my best guess is it usually takes me about a half an hour to do about an hour to do about a half an inch of stitching. You know, some stitches are faster than others. This piece I have to go pretty slow on because it's so complex. Needles and neurons, how you doing? Thanks for coming. So, I don't have the best internet connection this morning. I don't know why. So if I fade out on you, it's because my internet connection is not good. So those of you who love the brainy art, you should go check out Needles and Neurons page, as well as Whitney Works page. I love it when other artists follow me. It's very fun to see what they get up to. Oh, she said, colors looking beautiful as always. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, color is my friend. I love everything about it, and I do think I get that from my mother. She was always very colorful. I have a really funny story about when I got married many moons ago. I'm since divorced, but when I got married, my mother asked me to color in a quilt form, and then she would quilt the piece. It was a kaleidoscope pattern, and she would quilt the piece per my coloring in the form. So I did that. I sent it to her. Turns out she couldn't find this one green that was in the coloring pattern I had done. But she found it in a dress that she had in the closet. So my wedding quilt contains a cut-up dress of my mother's. I was just thinking this morning I might have to cut up this dress that I'm wearing. Let's see. Hope says, I like the idea of leaving it in a hoop so you can flip it around to see the inner workings of your brains. Oh, that's a great idea, Hope. Thank you for that. Yeah, here's the back side if anybody wants to see it right now. I keep promising one of these days that I'm gonna finish a piece and then frame it so the back side is the front side, because I like the chaotic mess in the back. And you're right, I think it's very reflective of what goes on inside our brains. So if you weren't here earlier, I was mentioning Neuroblooms, who is another artist I follow. And she does pins and patches and artwork based on brain scans when you're in different states of mental health. And it's very much about mental health awareness, her artwork. So this morning I put this dress on and it had a big hole right here. But I had a patch of hers, so I quickly ironed it on. So you can find stuff like this at her website, which is neuroblooms.com. I love that name. Hope says the backs seem more in line with my scrambled egg brain. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Hope. And if anybody wants to see the absolute best squirrel photos, go visit Maine Hope's Instagram page. She has a wild, friendly squirrel that lives with her, and she takes the best pictures of him. I don't know if your squirrel is a him or a her. You've probably told us. So my goal is to finish this piece this weekend and then figure out the real finishing part of it, whether I'm going to leave it in the hoop or frame it up. It has everything from just regular old buttons to these are flame worked glass beads that my daughter made a decade ago when I was the director of an art school, and she took glass bead making classes there, and she gave me a whole collection of her glass beads that she made. And then I have a lot of other beads in here, seed beads and little gemstone beads that I collected when I was making fabric jewelry, which I did for a while. And I have a little bird here. I have some old jewelry here. This is my friend's grandmother's tatting. And this is a piece of trim that I bought in New Orleans, where one of my daughters lives. And so you'll see I just have a lot of different stuff going on in here. And it's really very fun. Okay, Hope says Honey is a girl. That's her squirrel's name is Honey. Anyway, I recommend following Maine Hope's Instagram page if you want to see the best squirrel photos ever. Thank you everybody for joining. It's so fun to see the names pop up. And part of why I do this is to bring home the fact that stitching is a really, really slow art, but it's also very relaxing and meditative for me. So if anybody has any questions, feel free. I am stitching on this rainbow brain that I hope to have finished this weekend. Oh, thank you, God Neuro Art. Hope asked, is this the first brain of this style you've done? Yes, it is. I didn't even know what I was doing when I started it. All I knew was that I had this beautiful piece of rainbow fabric. You can see what the fabric looks like if you look at my stories. I posted a little video of the long piece of fabric. I found the fabric when I was in Tennessee visiting my mom in this little quilt store, and it just inspired me, and I was like, what can I do with this? So I started playing with it, and I ended up bunching it all around and forming it into a brain, and then I'm stitching around and adding lots of bobbles and buttons. I used to work a lot with fabric. In my earlier work, pieces I did 3-4 years ago, there's a lot of fabric collage where I would sort of improvisationally lay down lots of different fabric in the shape of a brain and then stitch around it and add stitching and trim. But this last year, well, really kind of since the pandemic started, I've only been doing stitched brains. I think part of that is because I find the stitching really meditative and calming, and who doesn't need meditation and calming in this day and age? So I really stopped working with fabric, and it was the fabric that I found. Oh, geez, got a little boo-boo here. It was finding this piece of rainbow fabric that inspired the piece. So I found the fabric first, and then I figured out what I could do with it. And when I first started it, I wasn't sure that it was going to work out. And I thought maybe I was making a piece that would end up in the garbage, because sometimes that happens. But I am loving it. I'm having a lot of fun working on it and having a lot of fun playing with the different colors and shapes and forms. And I challenged myself to only use materials I already had in the studio. So everything that's in here is something I had. A lot of it was gifted to me. And I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this bit while we're all here. Hi Megan, thanks for joining. Just over here sitting and stitching. The light is not great today. All right, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. Does anybody have any questions for me? Doesn't look like it. So I just want to thank you for joining and for joining my Sunday Sit and Stitch. And I'm sorry I missed quite a few weeks. I was gone to Tennessee visiting my 95-year-old mom, who I'm very happy to say is doing well. All right, last look, and then I'm going to say goodbye.